I become the best version of me, raised by certain degrees. It's taking blunting disease, cause I spit anti-establishment. This is battleship, I'm calling your number and letter, and I only do it to make you better. Negative mindsets just won't let up, and I'm constantly battling my predecessors, cause I get too fed up. But a scene when the same brings pain, locks and chains reduce the potential of human brains. I'm too insane, at least it's what they label me. I'd rather be labeled as crazy than stuck in the matrix. I got Asia chasing cause I'm making these statements. I'm participating in the emancipation of a nation under interrogation. See my determination as you're turning these pages. I will never ever be degraded. They want me to dumb it down and say the industry ain't ready for too pure of a sound, for too pure of a heart, for too much empathy. I will give it all till I empty me. This is my manifest destiny. Preferably dropping bombs over melodies. You feel it heavily, you're telling me. Watch out. But it brings a resistance. Please don't miss this. Consequence vicious. We need to destroy the traumas. Go back and heal for a better tomorrow. Face the pain that you want to avoid. Stick out your chest and raise up your voice. I will not bend. I will not break. Stand in my place and I won't be swayed. Mark my words, lives will be saved. And even after I die, my legacy will remain. My emotions run amok, I'm out of luck. What the flying flip is going on? I say I'm a king, but I'm showing pawn. My logic feels intoxicated. No love left cause my heart's been raided. Feeling jaded, want me medicated. Feeling like a fish cause I'm hooked and baited. And I can't find peace. I become my own worst enemy. Sipping Hennessy, feeling dead in me. If my pain were a woman, gotta let her free. Let it go. But she's holding on with a grip of death. The pain gets worse with every breath. I just wanna keep you in the dark so low. You feel it in your soul. Never see the light of day. You say, yeah, I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I don't like who I become. What have I done? I'm going numb, ain't having fun. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. Crazy is as crazy does. I catch myself trying to flirt with Lady Luck, but she just curves me. I'm worried, vision's blurry, feeling like death's coming early. You never get rid of me, even when you say that you're getting sick of me. Painted so vividly, making you sickening, feeling with misery, burning like Listerine. I spit on your grave, I'm taking control until you misbehave. The pain comes in waves, today I'm a slave. A trophy to gain, I'll put you on display. And laugh at your misfortune, laughing at your tears pouring, laughing at attempts of ignoring. Pieces foreign, the more you fight, the more you let me more in. This can't be life. The doc help me out, I can no longer fight. I'm crying uncontrollably, I need a hold of me. What's life supposed to be? And I'm feeling suicidal, all my rivals got me quitting on survival. My heart needs to mend, I don't wanna kill myself, just want the pain to end. But this feels like an uphill battle. I see your misery with a broken paddle. I've journaled, have addictions. There's a hole in me cause something's missing. I'm in prison, in my mind. Gotta hear what's been left behind. EMDR, whatever it takes. If I don't see change, I swear I'm gonna break. I just wanna keep you in the dark so low. You feel it in your soul. Never see the light of day. You say, yeah, I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I don't like who I become. What have I done? I'm going numb, ain't having fun. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. Keep hope alive. 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 Watch me do my work. Working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my work. Sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my work. Hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my work. Cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm working. Watch you do my work. Watch you working harder than they ever did. Spitting for the hearts of people that feeling irrelevant. Spitting for the hell of it, embracing all the elements. Music, chemic, content that'll challenge your intelligence. This ain't for the faint of the heart. Mature folks thinking that I'm way too smart. Too mature for my age, wanna put me in the grave. But I need a safe face, cause I'm running my race. Running my race, even overweight. But you see me overweight, cause I'm stealing off your plate. And I'm feeling so great, even though I make mistakes. Do whatever it takes to make winning the Mason race. But you will never bury me. Talking bad about the man is like heresy. Or fire like kerosene. Apparently my words are like therapy. Watch you do my work. Working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my work. Sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my work. Hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my work. Cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm working. Watch you do my work. I don't look like a rapper, what they look like, what they sound like, why they sound bite. I'm too busy cruising in my lane, I don't need to buy fame. And this is why I came to put it work in the hearts of man. There's nothing harder than I like a martyr can. Watch you do my work, watch you do it well. Been through hell and I'm telling a story that's so compelling. It's got me screaming and yelling, negative is a repellent. And ain't no dreams I'm selling, cause it gets so numb I'm rebelling. I work hard, you can tell, full of heart. Raise a hell, cause you're gonna see me rock this scene like prophecy. On a lock and key, it's gotta be something to write home about, cause I work with pride, I got a fire inside. Watch you do my work. Working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my work. Sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my work. Hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my work. Cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm working. Watch you do my work. Work, work, work. Watch you do my work. Work, work. Watch you put in that work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you put in that work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you put in that work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you do my work. Working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my work. Sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my work. Hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my work. Cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm working. Watch you do my work. Working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my work. Sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my work. Hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my work. Cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm working. Watch you do my work. Work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you put in that work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you put in that. We have a problem. Uh-oh, there's a problem in the industry. You probably didn't think too many people would be into me. You want carbon copies? Well, I'm sorry to disappoint. It's a breaking point. Words so absurd that I'm breaking joints. Who's this brother in a suit jacket think he is? Don't even know that rappers ain't taking this serious. It's all about making hits, lyrics to the side. Humility isn't welcome cause we're talking about pride. My bad, I must have missed Hey, folks, welcome to Therapy Thursdays, where we bring the therapist to you. I am your host, Marcus Alexander Velasquez, and I'm so happy that you guys are here with me today. I love doing this show. I think I mentioned that just about every episode, but I am just so honored to be the host of this show. The resource is getting out to more and more people. People are receiving the information. People are signing up for formal therapy, which makes my heart so happy because that was one of the original purposes of why I created this, was to entice people to want to sign up for formal therapy. It's one thing to just talk about it all day long or talk about it for an hour on Thursdays from 7 to 8 p.m. But to actually put this into practice, the things that we talk about. I mentioned on last week's episode, things like people need to be willing and able to be honest about their current condition and where they're at in life, and then willing to put in the hard work for change. This show is not for the faint of heart. This show is where we get real, raw, and honest about who we are as people, where we come to terms with our quote unquote weakness. And I say quotes because at the end of the day, we are all weak in some area. I may be strong in something that you're not. You may be strong in something that I'm not. But that's why we're supposed to work as a team. This is why we balance each other out. So yeah, man, this is an awesome resource. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you guys for joining us. If you're joining us live, if you watch later on in the recording, thank you so much. If you are live, please, there is a live chat option underneath the YouTube video. Please type your comments and questions. One of the great things about the show is that you get access to a real life licensed therapist during the show, and you get to ask questions, which is a wonderful resource. So please take advantage of that. But yeah, if you're here on YouTube, please click on the live chat option and type in your comments and questions. I will see them live here on my screen, and we will talk about them, discuss them, answer any questions that you have. You can submit questions on the topic at hand today, which is codependency. Really interested and excited to get into that one. But it can be about codependency. It can be about anything therapy or mental health related. Also, in the description of this video below, you will see a link to a Google Drive document. That document has all the contact information for every single therapist that we have here on the show. Please take advantage of it. If there's a particular therapist that you happen to click with and you really like that person and wish that you could see them as your therapist, you can, unless they're not taking clients, but reach out to them anyways. So please, in the description of this video, you'll see contact our therapist. Click that link. It'll open up an online spreadsheet. Everything is there that you would need to contact them: names, email addresses, phone numbers, where they're located, do they do telehealth, what kind of insurance they accept, what specialties do they focus in. Like, please take advantage of that resource. It's awesome. So I am here. I want to get into our disclaimer first and foremost. So our disclaimer: this show is for informational purposes only. You are completely responsible for what you do with all the information presented, and myself and all of our guests cannot be held liable for any misuse or misunderstanding of the information presented. Please always consult a trained mental health professional before making any decisions regarding treatment of yourself and others. So we are going to bring in our wonderful guest for the day. This lovely lady. I think at this point, I think she's okay with me calling her my friend because I feel like she's my friend. She's been on several times. She'll be on several times more. But she's just a pleasure to work with. She's a wealth of knowledge, and I love having her on the show. So please help me welcome Mrs. Melissa Finley.
Hello,
Melissa.
Hi, Marcus. I'm good. I miss being on your show, so it's good to be back.
Awesome. So happy to have you here. How's your day going?
It was a rough day, but just kind of trudging along and doing the next thing, right?
Well, we appreciate you being here.
Yeah, it's good to
Always a
be here.
Always a pleasure. For those who are new to you, Melissa, and that never heard of you before or didn't watch any prior episodes, which you can go back on the YouTube channel and watch prior episodes, please give us a little bit of background on you. How long you've been in practice, any particular specialties that you like to focus on that you feel particularly passionate about. And as always, my favorite question, what initially got you interested in therapy and wanting to become a therapist?
Yeah, so let's see here if I can figure all those out. I have a private practice in the western suburbs, and I can practice all throughout Illinois with telehealth. I have been in private practice since I think 2019, so about a year before the pandemic.
Wow.
Before that, I was a school counselor. I worked with middle and high school students. And
Cool.
before that, I was a math teacher.
A math
And
teacher.
yeah,
Math was
and
actually my favorite subject in school.
I love math. I love
Yes.
algebra. I'm like
I
kind of
love
deep.
algebra. Oh man, we're
See,
nerding
this
out
is
right
why
now.
we connect, Marcus. This is why we connect. We got an
Oh man,
algebraic line.
that's right.
So yeah, so I what got me into therapy? When I was teaching algebra, I kind of wiggled my way through and found the students that really struggled with math, and I started a program with a couple other people, the academic support program at my school, and we worked with students that were low in reading and math. And what I found was a lot of them had some sort of trauma or anxiety or something else going on that didn't have to do with their capabilities, but they had to be 2 years or more um, lower than their academic. So if they were in like fifth grade, they were reading at a third grade level, doing math at a second or third grade level. Didn't qualify or didn't want special ed services. So I started working with them and their families, and I really loved it. I loved it more than working with the students who really got it.
It's great.
Yeah, so that kind of led me into the school counseling piece. I I went to a therapist. I went to several therapists, and they changed my life. One in particular, I had an algebra teacher that changed my life, and so I wanted to become an algebra teacher, Mrs. Varnish. And
Shout out to
then,
Mrs. Varnes.
hey, I don't know where she is now, but and then I had a therapist, Dr. Warner Mendenhall, that changed my life. And then I wanted to become a therapist. And I am autistic, and I love geeking out on, like, my high interest geeking out stuff is psychoeducation, is brain and body awareness, is, I mean, I buy so many books, it's disgusting. I don't read them. I just buy them because I'm like, I want to, like, just have it in my hand. So I do refer to them all the time, but I never read a book cover to cover. I just can't. So but I refer to books all the time. And so yeah. And then my specialties, I really love working with trauma, codependency, childhood wounds. I like working with the neurodivergent population, specifically autism and ADHD, um, anxiety. I do EMDR with clients, and I do sensory motor
Nice.
psychotherapy with clients. So not just talk therapy or psychodynamic. I, kind of mix it up a bit. And yeah. Oh, anything else? Anything else that I didn't? I think I answered all the questions.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I did. I answered all.
Yes, you did a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One thing I love that you commented, which to me, is the proof is in the pudding. So it's not just you being a therapist, but you've actually seen therapists yourself, which is beautiful because, it's one thing to It's one thing to talk the talk. It's another thing, as you know, to walk the walk. So I think that's beautiful. I firmly believe that every person on the face of this earth should have a therapist, and I believe every therapist should have a therapist. So it's a beautiful thing, and that's why we're here doing what we do and sharing this information with people. So I'm really excited. So yeah, codependency. I gotta be honest, I don't know much about this topic. I have heard the word used. I know it's not a flattering title to have. So I'm really interested to get into this and of course hear it from a professional such as yourself. So first and foremost, I always like to define our terms because people may have heard of codependency before, but they may have a misconstrued definition of what it actually is. So if you can let us know, and I'll throw this on the screen, if you can please define codependency for us.
Sure. So I'm going to define it, and then I want to respond to just the word codependency, because if you believe it, Marcus, I got into it with another therapist on Facebook about codependency and its implications and its harm. And I am in recovery from codependency. Everyone's codependent because everyone needs someone, in their life or whatever. I think I know it is a very misunderstood, and a lot of therapists really, they kind of consider it shaming to the client to say you're codependent.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. So this is what this other therapist was kind of stating. Melody Beatty, who wrote Codependent No More, they stated that it was just a bunch of, they didn't use the best words, but like crap, and it's victim blaming and it's shaming, and I just had a really strong reaction to that because codependency stemmed from addiction originally, so it was originated from Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob and Bill, they started AA, and their wives started this Al-Anon program. And codependency, the term kind of stemmed from that. So it became automatically put in this box with addiction, So I want to say up front that I'm always open to my clients coming up with different terms and things that they're comfortable with. If someone says I'm not codependent, I don't like that you say that to me. Cool. I'm not going to say it to you. I thank you for telling me, and we kind of figure out other ways to approach whatever that is. But I'm going to define it. So there's out of all my books, I pulled out 10 today, Marcus, and all of them have different definitions of codependency, and some of them have Charles Whitfield, he has 5 definitions of codependency in his one book. So, I mean, it's that big of it kind of encompasses so much. So I picked 2 that I really love and that I tend to refer to quite a bit. So the one is, let me see, I didn't reference for myself which book I got this from. I forget which book I got this from, but it is, codependency is a dysfunctional pattern of living which emerges from our family of origin as well as our culture. It is where there is a pre-distinct identity development resulting in an overreaction to things outside of us and an underreaction to things inside of us.
Wow.
Left untreated, it can deteriorate into an addiction, addicted to codependency. And then in adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families, which I've been on here and discussed at length with you in one of these podcasts, the definition is when we constantly look outside of ourselves for love, affirmation, and attention from people who cannot provide it. And then I added, it's the trauma response of a learned behavior for misattunement. So when our parents are misattuned to us, it's kind of like a trauma response that we have.
Okay.
So how is that for definition? What questions you got about those definitions?
That was amazing. That was straight from the book.
Straight from the book. Yep.
Speaking of books, we have Soul Survivors of Chicago tuning in. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for being here on the show. I'm going to throw their comment on the screen. They're asking if you can reference the Codependent books by Charles.
Oh, yeah. So that book, Charles, is Healing the Child Within. Did you hear that, Marcus? Healing the Child Within. Yep.
Healing the Child Within.
And then I found the other one was Adult Children, The Secrets of Dysfunctional Families by John and Linda Frail. Very cool. These are both old school books, by the way. Codependency was a big one in like the 80s. So kind of took off right then.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. Definition of codependency. Boom. Beautiful. And boom.
Beautiful. So what are some signs of codependent behavior?
Yeah. So I'm gonna read these off of a list, but if you have any questions about what that might feel like for the person, let me know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So invalidating and repression of internal cues, such as our observations, our feelings and reactions. Okay. Neglecting our needs, our own needs, stifling our child within.
Wow.
So we've talked about inner child work a little bit, you and I. Denial of a family secret or other secret. Increasing tolerance of numbness to emotional pain.
Wow.
Progressive shame and loss of self-esteem. So like a spiraling of shame, feeling out of control, and then the result is needing to control more.
Wow.
So those are some of the big ones that I see that people tend to come in and struggle with.
Yeah, and then you mentioned what that feels like for the person with codependent behavior. Can you get a little into that?
Sure. So it's like everything else, it's like a spectrum, of this. I've seen people coming in, and I think of codependency as a trauma response. I truly do. So I think it's a childhood learned behavior. We're not born with it. It's not like it's not like a trait you just have in your personality. It's definitely a trauma response.
Okay.
So in that spectrum, I've seen some people that are responding to codependency. The way that it looks is they keep themselves very busy. They become very focused on the person outside of them. So a spouse, a child, a friend. So I'm doing the laundry. I'm doing all the cooking. He gets to just sit on the couch, or she's just, drinking. I don't want to bring drinking into this because I really would like to kind of get away from that, because that is the biggest way you don't have to have a drinker in your life to be codependent. But so and they really hyper focus on that. And so they just keep themselves busy. And there's a lot of resentment outward. There's not a lot of pausing. There's a big struggle to pause and even reflect on themselves, because there's just almost like a neglect of self so much. Okay. Wow. So that's one way I've seen it kind of show up in people's lives consistently as I work with people that struggle with this. On the other side of the spectrum, it's like this very intense shame, this very intense feeling of loneliness and attaching. I need them to do this. I can't do this without them. I'm not lovable. I need someone to show me how lovable I am. So it's kind of a cross. So the way that one kind of shows up, the first one I talked about, I don't like the people who are showing those symptoms. I don't hear a lot of like, I'm not lovable or I need them. It's a lot of, I don't need them. I don't need them. I don't need them. I'm doing. And they're not. And I'm going to keep talking about what they're not doing. And I'm going to keep doing more and more and more and more.
Wow.
So that's one side. And then the other side is like this very needy, it kind of exhibits in this like that trauma response. Remember we talked about the fight, flight, freeze, submit, attach.
Yes.
It's like a lot of that attaching, a lot of that shame, a lot of pulling towards someone, and then shame. Something's wrong with me. That's why they don't help me. Something's wrong with me. That's why. So it's like kind of comes across like that, like depression more.
So it kind of sounds like there's like a dichotomy here, an internal struggle, because from what I heard from you, some codependent people can, like you said, push other people away, but at the same time want them close. Is that like normal behavior? Is there almost like a forever internal struggle because of that?
Yeah, and I believe that part of that, like I said, the childhood wounding, I do believe that stems from the misattunement as a child. Because it's almost like the development of it's safe to have wants and needs and be in a relationship and be loved and give love in a very attuned way that wasn't nurtured in childhood, right? So you and I talked about like that misattunement, people think of trauma as something being done to them, but trauma is also what wasn't done for them, right?
Yeah,
so like
you taught me that, yeah.
Yeah. So like if I'm coming in and I'm like, Mom, I'm tired and hungry, and I'm 4, and my mom's like, you're not tired and hungry, right? Well, there's that misattunement that starts, right? And if that's done over and over and over and over again, what am I going to do? I'm going to not listen to what's going on in me. I'm going to look outside. I'm like, well, tell me when I'm tired. Tell me when I'm hungry. Tell me what I need, Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of self-doubt would come from that too. Like even if you have certain feelings or thoughts because you're so used to the external approval, you start doubting yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you weren't given that assurance as a child.
Yeah.
You are tired, you are hungry. What do you want to eat?
That's good.
What do you want to do? Do you want to sit here and rest? Let's listen to your body. Let's give you some attention for what you need.
That's awesome. I always think I like to think of as many perspectives as I can, because you never know who's watching the show. And the perspective that popped in my head when you were saying that was there may be a parent watching and they may have done some of that or instilled some of that behavior into their children. So I'm curious to know if there are ways of lessening that, or obviously I know you can do better going forward, but is there anything that a parent can do to a child that maybe they already instilled some of those things? Is there any way to lessen it?
I always say, heal your inner child, heal your child. So like, I would say that if someone's doing that a lot to their child, I'm assuming, and I always tell my clients, I'm making hypothesis here. You tell me if I'm right or wrong, but a lot of times you'll find when you do some work, and it does take some digging and work because we're loyal to our family, So we talk about how this isn't being disloyal. This is figuring out patterns because someone did that to them. That's what they learned, And so then they come up and they do it. This is why this codependency, this idea of trauma, generational trauma, codependency, generation after generation after generation happens.
Okay. Awesome. So the person with the codependency, how does that affect the other person?
Yeah. So a couple things, I'm pretty sure this is a positive feedback loop. So then what ends up happening is, that person let's take both sides of that kind of almost spectrum, if you will. I'm kind of making that word up here. But I mean, that word is a word, but I'm making up this process. Like the one that's like very like, go, 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 I'm going to do. And you're not doing, and so I'm going to do more, and you're not doing enough, and so I'm going to take over more, and I'm so tired. I do. I go, 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 but I can't stop, even if I want to stop, because then I'm forced to look inward, and I don't know how to do that. The other person might experience a shutdown mode. So remember, I talked to you about the window of tolerance, and the hyper arousal and the hypo arousal. Okay, so what ends up happening is that person's up in hyper arousal, and the other person tends to move down into hypo arousal, especially around that person, because it's like, I can't do anything right. I'm not doing enough. I'm just going to shut down. So that ends up happening in that scenario. And then in the other one I talked about, the person that's kind of in that low place, they're in that hypo, right? That hypo submit attached part of their window of tolerance. And so the other person gets a little more in that hyper. They shut down in a different way. They might fight them. They might run, flee from them, stay away from me. What does that do? That just reiterates to the person, see, I'm not lovable. You don't love me. And so they run away. So it becomes the relationship itself becomes very enmeshed, and unhealthy for both people.
Yeah. Wow. That's good. That makes sense too. In relationships, we feed off each other, whether we like it or not. So that makes sense about the hypo and hyper. Hyper is up, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Hyper and the hypo. So you're teaching me. I love this. Awesome. I know we talked about it a little bit. I feel like it's a recurring theme that many of our things we struggle with, personality traits, stem from our childhood. But I'd like to know if there's a specific root of codependency, or how you would answer that, of what is the root of codependency.
I've got a great quote here that I love. Okay. This is, I love when I find quotes and I'm like, this is it. This is Charles Whitfield again in Healing the Child Within. And he says, the origin of codependence begins by the repression of our observations, feelings, and reactions.
Wow.
Often our parents and eventually ourselves, we begin to invalidate these things, which are crucial to internal cues. So that is where that's kind of where that begins, that misattunement, like we talked about.
Wow. That's wow. So it's, if I understood that correctly, it's not necessarily, is it more like a child putting the needs of someone else above their own? Or at least is that part of it?
Yeah, that's a great way to say it.
Okay. So what are some of the characteristics of someone struggling with codependency? Because I know some people may be watching and may be curious, like, oh crap, some of this stuff kind of sounds familiar. This might be me. What are some characteristics of someone struggling with codependency?
Yeah. So, I love the ACA program, the 12-step program. I just do. It's just a beautiful program. But there is this 12 Steps of Adult Children yellow book that you can work through with your therapist, because your therapist is hopefully a trauma-informed person. But there's a laundry list of traits. There's 14 traits, and those traits are supposed to be, they're kind of labeled under adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families, but they fall under the codependency piece of this as well. So I think like the traits would be like being afraid, feeling anxious, feeling rejected. And then I know those traits could be with anything, but it's almost like how it's affecting you. How is it affecting your nervous system? How is it affecting your life? How is it affecting your relationships?
Yeah.
Because the codependency is progressive and it's healable. It's like, it's trauma, right? So you can heal trauma. We can heal trauma. We're not like, I feel so much trauma. wonderful, right? So it's healable, but it can feel worse and worse and worse if it
Mm,
doesn't get addressed. And I believe like internal family systems, like parts work, is a beautiful way to help heal the codependency, that part of the trauma. Is
mhm.
learning about your inner child, your different inner child voices and ages and their needs, and how do you um, approach those. And I know you've told a beautiful story that you had an incident with your mom where you were able to, like an experience where you were able to sit down with her and really talk to her about some of your inner child wounds, and
Yeah.
she was able to respond. That stuff is so healing,
Yeah.
and it helps break that codependency because you're heard. And that's
Mm,
all every kid really wants, is to be heard, you know? So,
yeah. You mentioned, was it 14 characteristics? Would you mind? Do you
yeah.
have that in front of you? Would you mind just listing them real quick?
I do. It's not going to be quick. They're kind of long.
Oh, I thought they were just like
Yeah.
maybe one word or a couple. In the
No, so there's like the first one is we became isolated and afraid of people and authority figures.
wow.
So that one, for instance, could mean that it's interesting. Let's just take that one. If you have a therapist you're working closely with,
Yeah.
like someone might read that and they're like, everyone's afraid of authority figures, whatever. Okay, yes, but I can make my husband an authority figure,
Mm,
right? I
yep.
can make a coworker an authority figure.
Mm,
If I become, something happens and I'm 10, everyone becomes an authority figure, and I
yep.
become very isolated and afraid, you
Wow.
know? And then I respond in a certain way, let's say to a coworker or my husband, and I'm 45. I respond, and then I go back and I go, why did I respond that way? Why was I so afraid of him?
Mm,
Why am I so him or her or whatever? And then shame comes in, a lot of shame,
mm.
So these characteristics, I mean, I can read through them, but if it's a lengthy list. Someone can just pull them up. You pull in the 14 characteristics of an adult child, and they all pop up there. And then a lot of people on the website for these, they give the, let me think of what they call it, the flip side of the laundry list. And some of my clients like that better because it's more positive language and it talks about what you're going for. Right?
Wow.
So you might go like, oh yeah, this is a goal. This is something I've been trying to work on. And it
Mm.
comes out a little bit differently. So it's free on the website. You can pull it up. It's the laundry list. And then the flip side of the laundry list,
What
um,
website are you referring to?
it's the ACA website. So I think it's just aca.org, but let me see. Adult children. Okay, so it's adultchildren.org, O-R-G.
Adult children .org.
Yep. And the
Sweet.
laundry list traits are like, boom, right there. So you open them, you click on that, and there are the 14 traits. Um, And then on the other side, so for instance, for number one, the flip side of the laundry list trait says, we move out of isolation and we are not unrealistically afraid of other people, even authority figures.
Mm.
Right. So, anyway, good stuff there, Marcus.
Great stuff. Yeah, that's awesome. I still want to. I'm going to throw that resource on the website. I'm sorry, on the screen, adultchildren.org. I just went to it, and that is the correct URL. I'm actually going to put it in the comments right now as well. Please, 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 if you guys are watching, please take advantage of having wonderful Melissa here and her time and knowledge. Please feel free to type any comments or questions you may have. We do want to answer them. We will take as many questions as we can within the hour till 8 o'clock. But please don't be shy. This is your chance to get your questions answered, and we want to answer them to the best of our abilities. So we talked a lot about like if we were the person that struggles with codependency. So I always want to know, again, I want to answer as many perspectives as I can. So if we know someone else that's struggling with codependency, is there any way or ways that we can support someone who struggles with codependency?
That's a great question. I always refer them to the ACA program, but
Nice.
that's one way. Another way is having some resources, so some different books that they can read. I
How do
like
you
Melody.
how
Go
do you
ahead.
how would you approach that conversation though? Because I know you have to tread lightly, and like I said, I don't even know the full I didn't even know the full definition of codependency. I just know it's a bad word. So it's not
I
something good
know,
that you
I
want to
hate
be.
that it's a bad word. I
So
know. That's why I got so mad when that guy wrote that. I was like, let's not give it more of a bad name. It's helped so many people. Um,
so like how would you
so
approach that conversation? Because again, like not everybody's happy with
yeah.
that term. So how would you
No,
approach a
I know.
conversation about
I
that?
know. I know. Definitely misunderstood. I think even by therapists. But so I think you might say, all right, I'm kind of I'm a 12-step guru, so I'm kind of a sucker for sharing experience, strength, and hope
Okay.
to ease the pain and take away the shame when you suggest something,
Love
right?
it.
So I would maybe find some ways that you can relate if it's relatable, and it should be because everyone's struggled with relationships, or everyone has something within their family of origin or whatever. So I would probably find something that's sort of relatable and share that with them,
Mm.
and then say, hey, I love you, and I noticed these are some things that are happening, and they seem to be causing you a lot of stress or distress or affecting our relationship, and I don't know how to help you.
Mm.
But I heard this stuff on this podcast, or one of my friends told me about this book, or I mean, and I don't know, like I was thinking of you.
Mm.
Can you want me to share that information with you, or something like that. I guess it would also depend on the relationship, because if it's your significant
Sure.
other, you're going to go like, this is affecting me too, and this is the way it's affecting me.
Yeah.
Um, and I love this idea that our inner children find each other to heal. So like I feel like you can always, when someone's in a lot of pain and they're having a trauma response, it's nice to be able to think of them as a child. It's nice to be able to think of them in a place of like pain,
Mm.
and not in like a condescending way, but in like a really loving, gentle, tender way. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I know how I feel when this is happening between us. You know, I know sometimes I feel little, or I feel hurt, or I feel this. And
Mm.
these are the things that I think you're doing that do that for me. No one can make you feel a certain way. Nidra Tawwab has a great boundaries book, and it's all lists. And I own the book, and I own it on physical and audio.
But did you read it?
I did not. I listened to. I'm getting like embarrassed. I listened to like half of it, but I didn't read it. But so I would put that's a good resource for people. Nidra Tawwab. She's Nedra, and then her last name, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I might not be.
Is it
Tawwaab.
Nidra Glover Tawwab? I found her
Yep.
online.
Yep. That book is amazing. And she has a workbook now with it, which I didn't buy, and I'm not going to.
Is it called Set Boundaries, Find Peace?
Yep. That's it.
Sweet. Yeah, I found it on here. I'm going to throw it in the comments as a great resource. Boom, there it is. All right, we have a question from YouTube. And it's funny because this is actually the next question I was going to ask. So it's a great segue. So from Miss Kings, I'm going to throw it on the screen. How would you address codependency and what type of therapy? Because my question next was going to be, which of course we're here to talk about therapy, is how can a therapist help someone with codependency? And that this opens up that same conversation. So how would you address codependency? What type of therapy?
All right. Good question, Miss Kings. So, one, I would make sure the therapist is trauma informed, and I would want to know what that means. So, like, what does it mean? So, do you work with trauma? How do you work with trauma? What kind of trauma training have you had?
Wow.
Okay.
So that's real quick. That's a good
Yeah.
point, because so you're saying that not every therapist is trained in trauma.
No.
Wow. Good to know.
I know. So, and if they're like, yeah, I'm trauma informed, oh, okay, what do you do? How do you work with trauma? What style do you have? So I do a couple different things with different people. I have a couple people that like the homework and the books and the reading, and we talk about it. And that's very helpful. I really like the ACA book for that. It's very gentle. It gives a lot of inner child, family of origin stuff. I love doing body work around trauma, and EMDR is great. It's a fast way, it's kind of like a faster type of, kind of gets to the points a little bit quicker, a lot quicker actually.
Can you give us a quick definition of EMDR?
EMDR is using bilateral stimulation for basically creating new neural networks, clearing out old neural networks and creating new ones. So any type of bilateral stimulation is going to work with it's done right brain to right brain. And that bilateral stimulation, when you come up with, you think of a memory, you do the bilateral stimulation, and your brain starts getting to work, getting old stuff out, making space for new stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have great experience with EMDR. It's a very powerful tool. It helps a lot. EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Thank you. My ADHD brain loves you, Marcus, that you just said that for me. I'm like, he is not going to make me say this out loud. I
No.
hate acronyms, and I hate being on the spot and trying to think of them.
Nice.
So back to Miss King's question. So that's one way, EMDR. I like doing internal family systems work. So that's when you can identify. I'm going to show you the chart. I think I've shown you, Marcus. I think I should send you a copy of it so you can. I don't know if you post show notes, but
No, that's a good point.
have I sent this to you? The chart of this?
Who is showing up now? No, but that looks cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, so this would be like identifying what parts of you are showing up in the relationship and working with your nervous system, and then identifying, is that my 4-year-old self, or like, is that my needy self? Is that my there's all like kind of different language that I would use. And then what I've done with clients is I have very specifically, especially when there's an age attached to it, we do a meditation and we meet their inner child. So I have clients like get their pictures from when they were kids, different ages, and really get to know their inner child and really get to have a voice for their.
Oh, we can't hear you. Melissa, your audio went out. We can't hear you. Nope. I mean, I see the lip movements. That's about it. Hopefully we can get you back on. Check. Can you hear? Oh.
And I still haven't figured out a new.
There you go. Now we hear you, but now we don't see you.
How about now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
There you go.
Oh, I hope these last for 15 more minutes. I need a new
Welcome
pair.
back.
You need to tell me what you have, Marcus, so I can
No
just
problem.
get
I will.
them.
No problem. Yes.
Okay. Before next week. I need them before next week.
All right.
So yeah. So if Miss Kings, if I didn't answer that question, please follow up. And I'll
Awesome.
answer.
Awesome. We have another question from Soul Survivors of Chicago, and this is great because we talked about this, and I told you that the word codependency is deemed a bad word by at least the majority of the population. So Soul Survivors of Chicago would like to know, what can we do to destigmatize the word codependency for clients that present with strong personalities? Great question.
That is a great question. The way that I have, with my clients, I typically I introduce it and then I don't keep going back to it. Like that's codependent. But I think the best way for me to do this is I'm an adult child of an alcoholic. So I am really good at like reading people and I'm like, so I think this is probably a good thing in this case. Psychoeducation. So like I love when I notice this pattern, I send all my clients that chart that I just put up. I send them all that chart and we go through it and we talk about the nervous system. And then Janina Fisher, who this is her stuff, that chart, she has this beautiful picture that I show my clients, especially when they're resistant to this idea, that is basically arms wrapped around all those parts of you. So like it's like so I kind of would introduce it as a trauma response, and I would introduce it as misattunement. So a lot of people don't understand misattunement, and so I would give them examples of what misattunement is, like I did here. And I would say, when that misattunement happens, because your parents did the best they did, and a lot of times I'll ask before we even get to this, what were your grandparents like? What were their parents like, right? So I start listening. Oh, I don't know. My mom didn't really like her dad, or they're not, and you start hearing little things and they're saying it out loud, and then you go like, oh, okay, so your mom and dad were probably doing the best they could. And when you came into the kitchen and you wanted something, or, if you don't want to make it personal, if a child comes in and they want something, that's misattunement. And can you hear me still?
I can, but now you're okay.
Okay. And what that will do is that will create something inside of you that says, I can't trust myself, or I'm not worthy of getting met, right? And
you said getting your needs met?
Yeah, I'm not worthy of getting my needs met. I can't trust my needs. I need to look outside myself. So I kind of introduce it almost from like an inner child perspective and a trauma perspective. Yeah. And that seems to take away that stigmatization of like, I'm codependent because I'm an adult and I don't know how to have adult relationships, and I'm married to an alcoholic, and so I'm, because I think that's how people sometimes take it, and for good reason, because there's misconception about it, but it's really like anything else. It can be very healing to identify it and know what it is. It was for me, and I had the most gentle teacher. It was for me. I'm like, oh yeah, that is codependent. So yeah, so hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, no, that's great. Are there any other titles that people could use almost like to cover up instead of admitting they're codependent? Is there something else they can say to like kind of excuse the behavior? So like with the comment from Soul Survivors of Chicago, they talked about strong personalities. Can somebody say that they have a strong personality instead of being codependent? Or are there like cleaner words or less impactful words that makes them look better in a better light?
Yeah, there's a book, Codependency. I have not gotten it, and I'm not going to buy it. I'm not allowed to buy any more books for like 3 months. It's called Codependence. and it's called Moving Beyond Codependency. So when I got into this little thing with this person on Facebook, someone had said this to me. But this is all based on loving an addict. And I don't think that that's all there is to codependency. I know that's not all there is to codependency. I think people can show up and, there is a DSM-5 diagnosis. I think it's addiction. It's like a, not addiction. It's like, oh gosh, I can't think of it. It was also in the string. Someone said that. So there is a diagnosis that's kind of like, because codependency is not in the DSM-5, and you are not allowed to put it anywhere near your notes or anything. I mean,
Wow.
it is not, yeah. So there is a diagnosis that kind of fits that codependency. I bet Soul Survivors of Chicago, is that a therapy group?
So actually, I just met the founder of it, and I'm still learning about it. I know it's a nonprofit and that teaches things in the mental health arena, that offers programs and support for that. So, and I know that the owner is a licensed therapist herself.
Okay, so she probably knows what I'm talking about, but I think like a lot of people come in saying that, that they were hurt in a relationship, or on the other end of the spectrum, the higher energy level, very annoyed in their relationships, very frustrated. But I think this can fall under like some borderline personality disorder trauma, very
Wow.
similar to that type of trauma. Because it's like that attached piece, that misattunement happened, and that attached piece. So yeah, I don't know if I can answer that question out loud.
Okay. What are some of the realizations that you attempt to help your clients realize for themselves that like lead to the codependent behavior? Yeah, are there anything in particular that you help them to like recognize about themselves?
Yeah, so I have this really cool chart. I'm such a chart book person. It's ridiculous. This is an iceberg. Okay, let's see if you can see it.
Yes.
Can you guys see that iceberg? Okay. At the very bottom is fear of abandonment, I believe. Codependency is like right here. And then all of these are like the symptoms that come out of that fear of abandonment. So, and there's shame, and then there's guilt. So what I try to do is I first of all try to like take away all the just work through the shame with them, and I have a gift for that. I'm very good at like just non-shaming environment, like just taking out that shame. And then this idea of abandonment, fear of abandonment, I think this is where the inner child and internal family systems work can come in, because I can go I got little Melissa right here with me, right? And I had 5 brothers and 3 sisters. There was no time for little Melissa to get upset or have a, so like when my 6-year-old self is here and feeling really afraid or needs attention, I don't have to be afraid that she's going to be abandoned, because my wise self, this person here, I can show up for her. Be like, listen, Melissa, little Melissa, I see you're feeling really afraid right now, nervous or lonely, or man, they didn't hear anything you just said. Look at them. They're doing it. Oh, you stay right here. Stay by my side. I'm going to take care of you. I won't let them hurt you. I'm going to take care of you. Right. And then my adult self can show up, and I can do something as my adult self in my 45-year-old body. I can go, you know what? We're going to go. Or I can go, I feel like you guys didn't hear me. Or I can take out a book and I can go, wow, I'm feeling really hurt right now. I'm going to read this thing that helps me feel better. Okay. How you feeling, little Melissa? You feel better? Right. So I think that that for me is kind of a tool that can take away that abandonment, because you are always with you.
Wow,
And
that's good.
you can learn to love yourself, you can learn to accept yourself. It's a process, you know.
Can that also lead to a lot of, I mean, I think it's healthy to a point, but can that lead to a lot of like self-reliance where it's, I got my back. I'm not going to depend on anybody else because, people always fail me and I'm the only one I can, really depend on. Is that part of it too?
That's part of the codependency,
Right.
but not when you start this healing. No, because what happens is you feel worthy of getting what you need,
Mm.
right? Like, I I will ask for what I need from certain family members and they freak out because I have never been allowed to ask for what I need.
Wow.
But guess what, Marcus? I'm now worthy to ask for what I need.
Absolutely.
So, and if they say no and they freak out and 4 little Melissas pop up, I go,
For
I got you. I got you, right? Like, it's all right.
wow.
So I think I know that a defense mechanism for feeling that trauma of being misattuned, having that such misattunement happen, is you don't ask for what you need and you don't feel worthy,
Wow.
right? Or you don't know what it feels like to get what you need in a worthy way. So even if you're getting it,
Mm.
it's uncomfortable because you don't know, you
Wow.
know? Yeah.
But I love what you said earlier that that there is healing available and possible. I think that's such a great point to make, and we're actually going to end on that point. That there's hope, that there's light at the end of the tunnel, that healing is available, and I think that's so important because. Again, I share my experiences when applicable. And when I first started going through therapy, I was 100% on my own. And what I mean by that is I didn't have family members that I could run to and say, "Hey, I started my therapy program. What was therapy like for you? Any suggestions you have for me?" It was a brand new experience for me. So the way I pictured it was fighting a battle or running a race when you don't know if there's an end. And that was a horrible feeling. I'm so grateful that I, got to the end, which really there is no end. I'll be growing for the rest of my life. But with certain traumas and things that gone through, like I've actually experienced that light at the end of the tunnel. And it's amazing. So I do my best to help other people and give them what I didn't get, which is hope, which is, yes, you keep pushing, you keep fighting. There is healing on the other end. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Keep going, keep pushing. You're not alone. People have been there before you, will walk with you through the process, will stay with you afterwards. Hope is available, hope is alive, and we're going to do our best to keep hope alive. Awesome. Well, thank you, Melissa, for being on the show. You are phenomenal. Oh yeah, Soul Survivors of Chicago. She commented. She said she's a licensed clinical social worker. Awesome.
Nice.
Sweet.
Cool.
I threw your website on there. If anyone's
Okay.
interested in reaching out to Melissa Finley, this is her website, melissafinley.com, appropriately named. And if you are interested in talking to any of our other therapists that have been guests on the show, again, in the description below this video, you'll find a hyperlink there. It says contact our therapist. That link will bring up an online spreadsheet with all the contact information for all of our guests. Please take advantage of that. Please utilize that and put that resource to work. It's great if you join us every single Thursday for Therapy Thursday. I love it. Please always come back. But this show in and of itself is not therapy. We talk about it. We'll give you some information. We'll help correct some misinformation. But this in itself is not therapy. Please utilize this as a platform to actually reach out to real licensed therapists. A point I wanted to make that you said before, when we talked about certain therapists not being trained in trauma, I want to put there, please interview your therapists. Like you said, asking them certain questions. Are you trained in trauma? Do you have any experience with eating disorders or childhood issues or whatever it is, whatever your particular struggle may be? Interview them. Just because they have the title of therapist doesn't mean they're going to be the perfect therapist, doesn't mean they're going to know exactly how to help you or have experience in the struggle that you're going through. Interview them. You may have to go to more than one therapist. I myself didn't really start feeling healing until my second therapist. So please keep going, keep pushing. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's wonderful. So thank you guys so much for being here. I want to finish with our disclaimer again. This show is for informational purposes only. You are completely responsible for what you do with the information presented, and myself and all of our guests cannot be held liable for any misuse or misunderstanding of the information presented. Please always consult a trained mental health professional before making any decisions regarding treatment of yourself and others. So we will be back next week, every week at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for another episode. We'll have another wonderful guest therapist on board. But Melissa, thank you so much for being here. You are wonderful as always, and we'll see you soon. Everyone else, we will see you next week at 7 o'clock. Have a good night.
Work, watch you do my